The idea for This Much Huxley Knows came from my debut novel, The String Games. So in that story, the catalyst is the disappearance of a young boy and how this affects his older sibling as she moves through life from a child to a teenager and then an adult. So Josh's role was really a cameo performance, but I so enjoyed writing his part that I thought I wanted to develop that in a novel, to write about a young boy throughout the novel. I wanted to use the young child as the narrator. My writing group in Dorset says you're never going to be able to sustain that voice for the length of a novel, and you tell me I can't do something and I'll always want to give it a try. So that's what I set out to do, to write from a child's perspective for the duration of a novel. Now, I didn't think much about the genre of the book while I was writing it. I wasn't preoccupied with that, but I wanted to write the story as I wanted to tell it. I mean, Huxley's a bit young for this to be considered a coming-of-age novel, so I usually refer to it as a contemporary novel. And that seems to fit the bill. It seemed to find a place on bookshelves. He didn't originally start off as Huxley. When I began writing, the main character was called Mikey. But when I decided to set the novel just after the Brexit referendum, that autumn term in 2016, I thought the name wasn't quite right for that period. And just listening around Dorset, I heard Huxley's name being called several times in parks and along streets, and I thought, this must be a name that's increasing in popularity and appropriate to the time, so I adopted Huxley. Getting into the head of 7-year-old Huxley wasn't altogether easy. So firstly, I drew upon my own memories of childhood. So I remembered going to the park with my siblings, happy occasions from my own childhood that were really readily accessible. And then I thought about my own children's childhoods, so that phase of our family life when my children were young. But really, to get into the emotions of a child, I needed to connect with my inner child. And I remembered how, when I was young, I used to sit in the airing cupboard at my parents' house where it was dark and it was warm, and all sorts of thoughts used to go around my head, and I thought, that's how I need to get into this child's mind. So I cleared out my cupboard under the stairs and just sat in there and hugged my knees the way I used to, let those childish thoughts go through my head. So it was all about, the joys, the preoccupations, the curiosity that I drew upon to feed into Huxley. Huxley is a lonely child. He hasn't got friends in school because he doesn't like football. There are some girls that are nice, but they are girls after all. So he's always looking for a friend, and he decides he's going to try and be funny to make friends. And he does this by corrupting words. So, for example, Brexit was very much on the agenda at the time when he's 7 years old, but he calls it Breaksit. Other words that he corrupts are like, when he's told in class to use syllables for spelling, he calls them silly balls, which has his teacher rolling her eyes. So I am a member of writing groups here at my hometown in Dorset. I'm a member of international groups where we meet whenever we're in the same country. And I'm also a member of Pens Around the World, which is an online group, which is a really fantastic resource, because we're all serious about writing. We're writing for publication, and we all have this shared experience of living or having lived overseas. That brings us together and helps us scout around for writing opportunities around the world. There is an enthusiasm for entering competitions, and a lot of flag waving goes on whenever anybody is successful in getting a publication. So it's really a collaborative group that offers lots of support and a celebration of all the steps we make to reach our goals. And let's face it, if we don't celebrate those steps, nobody else will. So it's a fantastic group to be part of.